Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, Aloha Creations, and my name is Aloha. I wanted to show you guys a very special junk journal because it is one of my first ever concept journal that I had to write a story about it. The problem is I'm not a writer, and I had a picture in mind to create this journal. I had collected some history books and they had a lot of vintage photos in them, and I wanted to create something with that in mind, with those photos in mind. And I came across a book about a hospital from early 1900s onwards, I think up until 1980s, and I wanted to kind of pay a tribute to those nurses. And so I came up with the story about a nurse who is was born in late 1800s and went through the war and so forth. So but it was kind of all over the place. I had these things, but then I couldn't create the journal without having that story in mind. So I had to write them down, and then it became like a mini short story. And then I had to do a little bit of research about World War I and things that were appropriate during that era. But again, I'm not a writer. I mean, I could be off with a timeline. I could be, I could have mistakes about the bigger picture of it all, but I guess you'll get the idea once you read the story. Anyway, I'm going to be jabbering on and on about it, so I'll just show you. I don't really know what I'm going to be doing, whether I'm going to be reading you guys the story. So here is the journal, and it is a leather bound soft cover journal, and I really didn't have an idea how to do the cover. I just kind of went along with it and how I felt about it. I had an idea, but I really didn't know how it was going to go. Again, not a sewer, so I did my best to not mess up, but there are the little details there that are, a little, it's off, like, the ends, but it really did add character to it. It is supposed to look old and, a little bit grungy, so I went over it twice just to be sure. So I got this metal frame, I guess you could say, plate from the Dollar Tree, and it had stickers on them. And then when I tried to incorporate it, it wasn't working. And then for some reason I was like fooling around with the sticker, and then it peeled. And then I used the sticker in the journal, but this plate was left behind, and I thought, oh, maybe I could use it as a book plate. But that didn't work either. And then I realized, well, it looks like one of those army tags. So it was really appropriate. So I just hung that, and a little key. Now, what else to say about this? I mean, it's kind of says it all. This is really chunky, guys. I mean, it's a 2.5-inch spine, but I went a little, I can't stop. That's me. I keep going until I realize, oh wait, it's getting thicker, guys. And then I had the extra leather, and I didn't know what to do with it. So I made a little pouch, and I put I made a little medical book out of a medical dictionary from, it's an old one, 1930s medical dictionary, and I just thought that was appropriate because she's a nurse, and she would be carrying a little medical pocket with her during, you know, university days. And so I made that. So here you go, guys. So guys, here it is. Yeah, it's very thick, guys. I don't know. This is I surprised myself with this. I didn't think I could do something like this. I really was just inspired, and again with the story, I made this little booklet for, you know, just extra journaling, but then I needed to write the story somewhere, and I was thinking to, you know, just type it up and print it out, but I don't know, I needed it to be like a little book. I don't know what I was thinking, but anyway, I wrote it here, and I still have yet to write the title down and my name here, which I haven't done. Sorry, guys. So here's the story. Should I read it out to you guys? Oh my gosh. Okay, maybe I need to sit. But if you guys don't want to hear my voice, then just, you know, I'll flip the pages and you guys could pause me and you guys could read it yourself or just fast forward. So I wrote a little introduction just to have a little idea of what's happening. A rainy spring morning, when Elizabeth went up to the attic to search for some paperwork regarding the land title of her home, when she glimpsed out of the corner of her eye a familiarity. Cobwebbed, an old dusty box, she opens it. Memories of the old days flashed in her mind as she finds her journal. Slowly and carefully, she takes it out and sat on an antique rocking chair which belonged to her grandmother, Aurora. Elizabeth unties the soft leather-bound book and opens the first page. I did a timeline here just so I could keep up with what I'm talking about. And it had to be done because, you know, I get confused. But here it is. You guys can read that. It started when I was 11 years old. I found a baby bluebird that had fallen out of its nest from our big maple tree in our front yard. I rescued him and then saw a broken wing. My mama thought me crazy for believing I could nurse him back to health, but I did, within a week. We lived modestly in a Victorian house passed down to my mother from my grandmother, who loved cooking. I can still smell the aromas of her dishes that she would prepare for the family. Memories are a strange thing. A slight scent that is so familiar can bring back an entire lifetime of childhood. I started volunteering at our local hospital. Basic things like replenishing linens, carrying out orders such as making coffee for the doctors and nurses. I admired them. I was only 15 by the time I graduated high school. I had a knack for being top of my class. By 17, I was in college and studying to become a nurse. I lived on campus and once in a while wrote to my parents and to my younger sister Ellie, who I believe may follow in my footsteps. "1916 marked a major turning point in my life. I knew that this was my calling, and without my family's consent or knowledge, I signed up to volunteer for the Canadian Red Cross Auxiliary. This was the bravest I have ever felt. Before I knew it, I was being sent to London, England, to their headquarters, from which to coordinate its work in Britain and France. We established supportive hospitals and rest houses. This was a time of sorrow and despair. Madness ran rampant, it seems. The horror it brought and experiences I never could forget, and I never spoke of it after. It was horrendous. 3 years I was brought to France and Siberia and then back to England. Europe, from that time period, was dark and eerie, something I wished to forget. But how can I when it brought me the love of my life, Bruce? He often would try to cheer me up. Once when I first met him, I was sitting at the cafeteria. As usual, I recall my permanent worried face, pen in hand, about to write to dear Ellie about the happenings of my work, as to not worry them of my status. I clenched my pen and stared for a while at the empty page until he appeared out of nowhere, wearing the silliest get-up you could possibly imagine, with the most ridiculous hat I have ever laid my eyes on, and started to sing the most awful tune, and the biggest grin splattered on his face. He tipped his hat to his enthralled audience and said to me, "Who needs opera when you have me?" "Goodness, what are you doing?" I blasted. He sat down beside me, self-contained. "Making you laugh," he said. "That's what I'm doing." I spent that year nursing him back to health, which came a silly notion reminding me of my little bluebird. I learned that Bruce was studying to be a doctor before the war. He's a skilled pilot, but his plane was shot down in France. He had burns on his legs, broken shoulders, dislocated hip, and some shattered ribs. Oh, but he was strong. He was also relentless. I grew fond of him and his anecdotes. By the end of the summer, he had my heart. The year after, in June, was our beautiful wedding. I remember that day clearly, the bright blue sky and the sun shining, the reception held at our garden, which Mama happily organized. Intimate and simple was that day, the happiest of days. I continued my work at our local hospital in town, St. Lucia General, as a registered nurse. But Bruce was called on duty and was assigned abroad for 1 year, the longest year of my life. We wrote each other every week and called when he was able. I focused on work and honed my skills and improved daily, as there was much difference working in a more established environment. I enjoyed caring for people. I delighted especially when I am beside the doctor and assisting on operations. Things are underway. New medical discoveries are being discovered at a rate, and it is quite thrilling. New operational procedures, for example, how one doctor always said to put on rubber gloves is to not cause harm or infections due to contamination. I had to get used to them. How wonderful these men of science, men of discoveries. I may never know how their minds work, but I can only imagine it to be very tiring and consuming, as I am sure it is never at rest. We are growing now as a family with 2 young ones, a girl we named Charlotte Grace Aurora, Grace after my mother, and Aurora after grandmother. We call her Charlie. 2 years later came Gilbert Bruce Barry, after my husband and his father, Barry. At 9 months, learned to walk. They bring us so much joy every day. Bruce says I could stay at home. He doesn't mind at all if I do. I have inherited my mother's home. Ellie is now traveling abroad. She writes about once a month, and I find such happiness when I receive her postcards, where she's been, and she's even met a beau. Good for Ellie. I am happy for her. I am focusing now on becoming head nurse. It is a lot more demanding, but I love the challenge. The patients I have met, some would tell me their life story, and some have been so memorable. Some have given me keepsakes. I keep them all dearly, as I feel some attachment to them. Some have become lifelong friends. It's strange how life can be so quick and be taken for granted, but also quite miraculous. I've held a baby in my arms for the first breath of their world life. How precious that moment is. How fragile at the same time. We brought along Charlie and Gilbert on our trips. How nostalgic this feeling I felt when we went to France for a 2-week-long vacation to visit Ellie, where she was happily settled down with her husband Peter and a daughter, Amelia. It's strange to see it now compared to when Bruce and I was there during the war. Those days are long gone, Bruce would say and remind me, and then tips his hat. Time has seemed healing, but never forgotten. My dear Bruce, to this day tries to cheer me up, even when he is gone. He always did manage to do so. The sad days, especially remembering him, are the hardest. Life has caught up to me now. I am old, and the memories of days gone by is all I have. I had lost Bruce years ago. He got very sick one day, and there was nothing more I could do for my bluebird except to let him go, even when his last breath. Bruce still was tipping his hat, the biggest grin across his face, trying to make me laugh. There you go, guys. I don't know. What do you guys think? Throughout the journal, there might be some discrepancies along the way, but you guys get the big picture, right? That's how her life was and how she lived it. I thought it was pretty straightforward, but hey, what do I know? So I'm gonna flip through the journal and hopefully you guys like it. So I received a Happy Mail, and this was included in that Happy Mail, and I just thought I'd include that, and I imagined it to be Bruce. And I have this chipboard title. I made this little notepad. I had this idea before, and then I was looking through, or I was on YouTube, and then I saw Luna Rosu. She did something similar like this, and then I initially didn't have these corners, but she had them, so I thought, oh, I'll do that. So this was an inspiration from her. And here's a tag. That's a page from an old book, and it has a little house in it. And I made tags, and I did a lot of stamping throughout the journal with the envelopes. And is there something in here? Yes. So there's some little cards inside. And these are all tea-dyed paper. No, sorry, the white ones are tea-dyed. These brownish color ones are actually from a fabric dye. This is an old 1930s page from a book. And this is Grace, her mom. And this photo is late 1800s, and I just backed it with some cardstock. And these guys, these have the photo corners. You can actually remove them and write on the back. And it says Christmas 1910, and there's a little baby right by the Christmas tree. So I imagine that's how they would celebrate Christmas. So the first signature is just about her family and growing up. I just glued this little decorative paper there. And this is father. It is Sir John A. Macdonald. I wanted to make sure that was put on there because he is actually our first Prime Minister of Canada. So I just thought it was a nice photo, and it fell on the era. And here's another photo. If you guys have seen my IG post, and I thought these are two sisters, And I imagine that would be Elizabeth and Ellie. And I just backed it with some paper and did some stamping. And this is them when they were a lot younger. Well, I imagined. Wide, washi, and then of course I find one at Daiso. Another vintage music page. Decorated the corner. These are certificates. I thought I would include them because she did study and she was a brilliant child, and so she would have received some awesome certificates. And again, these are removable, so you could take that out if you like. And here is a photo of a hospital. So she would have volunteered at this hospital. And everything is fiction here, guys, so I mean, this is just my imagination running. So, and this is Elizabeth, I thought, and then I wrote the year. This is her at college. You could pick whoever you want, who Elizabeth would be. I thought it was her right here. And then, I don't know if you guys saw my haul, but I found these stack of kind of a manila paper, and this is exactly what I had imagined. So I made this, I don't know, folder. This is like, again, her certificate. And then again, like a graduation photo, you know, around 1970, around that era. I wish I had kept a little information. But guys, I went to an antique shop, and he had a bag full of little things, and then I saw this, and it's actually a university, Oxford, 1957, but it says University of Alberta, but anyway, London. I don't know, but I thought that was appropriate. It's like a fee of something from a university. And then guys, I didn't back this up. I don't know why, but you guys can decide which photo you guys want. But this is from the time era. And then this is from like a 1960s getup. I guess it compared what it would be from 1917 to more recent. See how that is? But then I didn't want to cut this up either. Or I didn't want to cover these. So I left it at that. And you guys can decide what you guys want to do with it. And again, there you go. It's in this little file envelope. So there's 9 signatures on here, guys. Made this little corner. And I received these from a Happy Mail from Maud. She had a whole bunch of these photos, black and white, and I thought it looked appropriate for, I don't know, you know, it looked war-torn city. And then again, a little card. And then on the back of that page, there was this. So again, Bruce, he's a pilot. And then this would be the medical staff. But of course, it's in Hamilton, Canada, 1918. But I thought that was appropriate to include a march parade of the soldiers. And another photo. And that would be an airplane. war airplane. Another photo. So the photos during the war, I backed with black cardstock. Oh, and this is the one I thought was so nice. It's a military hospital, but it used to be a hotel. And in London, England, in the headquarters of the Red Cross Auxiliary, that's what had to happen. They had to stay at some kind of a building and turn it into a hospital because, you know, the space, they needed the space. And I thought that was so wonderful that photo, I found that photo. And of course she was in France. Another photo. Oh, and this, guys, I don't know, this was amazing. This was a photo of the ladies from the Red Cross, and they're nurses, and they were the ones that had volunteered during the war. And then again, with that stash that I found, I guess they were just all ephemeras, tickets and things like that, receipts. I found a Canadian Red Cross Society, and it was from 1980. Oh, March 1980. Mrs. R. Hiemstra. Oh gosh, I'm thinking about my friend Maud, that's why. But the last name is Hiemstra, and that's her last name. I love this photo of the nurses. You know, during World War I was reading that the women were not allowed to be a soldier, I guess. But that's one of the things they could do. This is when Bruce and Elizabeth had met and married, and this is, I would think, their honeymoon photo, but being that Bruce is such a silly, funny man, he took this photo, and I saw this person, and he had this biggest grin across his face. And that's why. And then of course they would take a photo in front of a feeding or annoying animal, strictly forbidden. It's just too funny. And of course I could imagine him annoying the animals. And I just made this little card and an envelope, did some collaging. And guys, so this one here is a little special. This would be their wedding photo, and I just made this card, and I included the church that they got married in, and a photo of a simple reception, and then their 1920 wedding celebration or ceremony. And I cut this from those Fisker scissors, you know, scissors with design on them. And that's her sister Ellie, and maybe a cousin or a friend, his best friend, and Elizabeth. So guys, I wanted to make a little envelope for this, which was this, or a little pouch. And I would think that this is something that she would have worn on the wedding. And then I just like, well, I don't know. It got so thick. And then I wanted to make it into a little journal. So I don't know. I don't think I'm including this now, because I'll tell you guys later what I would do, what I'm going to do. And then I included this. So this would be included here. And I found this at a thrift shop, if you guys saw my video haul. And then I made this pearl necklace, and I thought that this would be like a, you know, an heirloom from grandmother to mother, passed down to Elizabeth. So she wore that on her wedding day, and then she would pass this down to Charlotte. So that's the idea of that. And then I made a little paper clip. And then this would be Bruce, his airplane, and just a photograph of him in his car. And Bruce again, but of course it says Jack. That would be his photo with his airplane. Again, these are removable, guys, so you can write on the back of the photo. And then I was thinking of a passport, but it became a little notebook, maybe a little journal that she brought along with them during their honeymoon. And this is a paper clip that's shaped like a heart. And then I stitched around this, guys. Woohoo! Look at me. You know, stitching, sewing. And it's just these kind of antique looking paper. You know, it's places they've probably traveled to during honeymoon phase. And then I glued that little postcard photo. I'll do that later. And I gotta be quick, guys. And I thought that would be part of her wedding gown. And the next signature would be them writing to each other for a year when Bruce was assigned to an assignment abroad. These would be like letters they would write to each other, but it's empty page. And then I don't have, you know, I don't have authentic letters. I don't know where to get those. I can't order anything online because I don't know how to do it. And then I would think that they wrote each other poems and love letters. So I just cut out pages from my books that had, you know, love poems in them. And left them there, and you guys could do as you please with them, really. I'll tie that up later. Another little envelope with a little, you know, paper that you guys can write on. And then I did this, I cut these out. They were photos of postcards. And I don't know why I don't know what I was thinking, but I like how they turned out, because I did that now. I did one and then I thought, why didn't I do that before? So I look throughout the book, I'll show you guys like this, see? And then I stamp these again, the little love letter poems, pages from a book. See? Washi. And dyed. This is an old paper. It's long. Looks like a ledger. But I found it at a thrift shop. And see how you guys, I did that. I think it's great. See? But oh, I love the patterns on them. And then the next signature is about their family. So that was that sticker I was telling you guys about that I accidentally took out and became now this kind of a military tag. And this was a page from my family tree book that I found at the thrift shop, like 1970s. I'm into those books, those family tree books, and I found a few, guys, so I might do a little video of that haul one of these days. And then I put this charm, it's a tree, family tree. Then another page from a family record book. And this is her with baby Charlotte, I would imagine. And then this little pouch here would have, you know, Grandma's recipe. And I included a photo from a poem book from 1960s or 70s. And then I found a cookbook, and it's so cool because it looks antique. It's made to look antique, and it's blotches of little stained things on there, and then it says Grandma's recipe. It is so appropriate right now. I'm like thinking, wow. And then this photo, you know, like it's amazing. So that would be passed down to, you know, to Elizabeth. And this is a photo anyway. And these are family photos that I backed with cardstock and stamped. This is an authentic photo. I don't know what it is or when, but it is a vintage photo. I'm thinking it's Ellie because I picture Ellie very fashionable. And that's Bruce and Elizabeth. And I stamped that photo as well. And some more family photos. And this is little Gilbert. Oh, and I stamped the backs as well. And another family page. Guys, this is, oh, and this is Ellie. So she turned out to be, you know, a jet setter, a traveler. She loves to take photos. She's a fashionista and quite adventurous. And then these are cards that she would send Elizabeth. A happy birthday card. I like how I did this. I should have done more, like, and you know, but it was too late. And then guys, I was at the antique store and looking for postcards, and the owner just gave this to me because he said it because it's ripped, and I'm like, oh, that's the best part. Makes it look authentic, and it's a Christmas postcard. And I was really envious of this stamp. Man, if I could find a stamp like that, it'd be great. I could make my own postcard. And then it's 1 cent, and then it says 1923. And that's Ellie and her friends. Another vintage postcard that I purchased at an antique store in the US. And again, Ellie, you know, she's such a fashionista, and this is her just a little bit older. And she would send Elizabeth photos of her. And this is a postcard that she sent, and this would be, say, Ellie with Amelia. It's a vintage postcard I purchased in the US when I was there vacationing. And the next signature, the next 2 signatures would be about her nursing work at the hospital, and she's a lot older now. And these are some of the certificates she received, and letters and things like that. I didn't do much, and it's funny because this is Dr. Herbert Bruce. so crazy. And nursing staff. So I just put that there nicely. Again, this is a letter to Dr. Bruce from Elizabeth. It's an actual person. This is from a book. And yeah, you guys can read the letter for yourself. I think it's thanking Dr. Bruce for giving her the opportunity, because she's now head nurse. And she pioneered pretty much a lot of the things at the hospital. And this is an envelope, and it's got a magnet. Again, a letter Elizabeth wrote. And then this is her a lot older, and she was presented, you know, this photo and being congratulated. These lady accomplished so much. But obviously, this story is fictional. These were just photos I had collected from a book. And again, another little article, letter. Magnetized envelope, and this, guys, is an actual photo of a hospital in Hamilton, Ontario. I don't know what year this was, because when I bought the book and I was flipping through it, and this came out, and it's an authentic photo. So I don't know, guys. That's just an amazing treasure to find there. And I also found another photo, and I don't know who it is, but I'm assuming she's a nurse. But I included her there as well, and it's a photograph. And then I included in the pockets here, this was during 1917 at the hospital. This is, I would think, Elizabeth presenting the nurses that are, I think this was in the 60s. And she was congratulating them. I guess she was a presenter. And this is an actual photo of Elizabeth Grace Flaws. Oh my gosh, her name is Elizabeth Grace Flaws. I didn't even see that. Oh, maybe that's why, because I was reading the book. Maybe those names popped out because I had them already in my head. And then Dr. Herbert Bruce during First World War. And this was his medals of accomplishments. And then I did put the actual facts of Dr. Herbert here. Alright, guys, that's long, sorry, but it had to be, you know. This was about a month long. Finished interested in purchasing this item, this journal. Please contact me via Instagram, which is Aloha's Creations, and I will link that down below in my description, and then you guys can direct message me from there for more information. So guys, I wanted to tell you guys about this fabric, and I told you guys that I was going to tell you what I had planned for it in the future. So I think what's going to be happening now is with Elizabeth's journal, I wanted to make it a series, but it's going to take some time, you guys. This took me a little over a month to finish. So I thought I was going to extend it. So with Elizabeth's mother, Grace, and I found this photo, and it's appropriate for the time period. And I wanted to make a journal for her as well, because since I didn't end up using this for Elizabeth, I wanted to use it for Grace. So I think it's going to become a series following, you know, her grandmother, Aurora, and then as well as her daughter, Charlotte, and maybe even Ellie. I mean, that's just way down, way into the future. So I just thought that was an idea. So let me know what you guys think, and I hope you guys are having a great day. Have a wonderful day, guys. Thank you for listening, and thank you for watching and spending your time with me. Bye for now.